Hello, football fans in Hamilton from coast to coast and around the world. This is a bonus edition of the fifth quarter show on YouTube. Whose dumb idea was this? 8 a.m. My gosh, I got to bed at 2:45 and I was so amped. The last time I looked at the clock, it was 3:01, and my wife just gives me the eye roll this morning. She's like, 8 a.m. Really? You could have done this at 9 or noon? I'm thinking, yep, you're right. I miscalculated that one. But I was just so excited to, continue the fifth quarter on a Saturday morning. And for those of you who did not or were not able to stay up late last night to either see the conclusion of the game or join us on the fifth quarter, as I said, throughout the entity of this program, this show is all about you, the Ticats fan. And what a game it was last night. 32-29, Ticats over the Lions in overtime and make it 4 wins in a row for Hamilton. They are inching closer to a playoff spot, and who would have thought we'd be saying that just before Labor Day, just before this team started rolling. But they're now 6-9 on the season. They were 2-9 at one point. Now 6-9 on the season. 2 points back of Toronto, who have a monster of a game later on today. And 1 point out of the crossover playoff spot that is currently held by Saskatchewan, who also have a monster of a game later on today. So before we get to what happened last night, let's set up what is happening today. 3 p.m. kickoff in Regina. It is the 6-7-1 Rough Riders hosting the 8-5-1 Ottawa. Don't call me Rough Riders or Red Black or Renegades. Red Blacks. It's Red Blacks, Rough Riders in Saskatchewan. That is a biggie. Really a biggie for both teams. Ottawa wins, they officially clinch a playoff spot and help out the Ticats. Saskatchewan wins, and they're 3 points up on Hamilton. They have really did themselves a favor with a win today because now they're in second place. Should Saskatchewan win, they would jump to second place in the West Division, 1 point up on BC, who's now sub 500 at 7-8. The other big game today, and it's tonight, 7 o'clock in Toronto. It is the defending champion Montreal Alouettes at 11-2-1 against the 7-7 Argos. A Toronto win, and I'm thinking we're all on the same page in this, and that we don't want to see that happen. But a Toronto win gives them 8 wins on the season. Would push them up to 16 points. And should Ottawa lose today, Toronto's 1 point back of Ottawa. Toronto loses, they remain 2 points up on the Tiger Cats, 3 and possibly as many as 5 points back of Ottawa. And you could probably kiss second place goodbye if you are an Argonauts fan and they lose today and Ottawa wins. So that is what is at stake later on today. And it should be a lot of fun to watch as a CFL fan. 2 things I want to address before we get to some of your calls. And I see Jeff in Edmonton already standing by and the chat already going off as it was last night. Holy Mackinac, was that chat crazy. So there were 2 items and questions that people had last night. One was, when was the last time the Tiger Cats won a game in overtime? And I thought, okay, I got some homework to do, and I'll let you know. The last time the Tiger Cats won a game in overtime was a while ago, October 21st, 2016, 8 years ago. They beat the Ottawa. Were they the Red Blacks? Yeah, they were the Red Blacks, 39-36 in OT. The last time the Ticats lost in overtime was 2022, June 18th, 2022, to be exact. They lost to Calgary 33-30. The other thing that we were kind of discussing last night too was the crossover, and should Hamilton cross over to the West to become the first ever East Division team to crossover and somehow, some way get to the Grey Cup, and somehow, some way Toronto gets to the Grey Cup. When was the last time Hamilton played Toronto in the Grey Cup? Well, they have played each other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the Grey Cup. The last time being November 26th, 1927. And none of these have ever been Tiger Cats versus Argonauts. Right? The Tiger Cats came to be after the merger in 1950, and well, the Argonauts kind of found their way later on in their franchise. So 1927, the last time that Hamilton versus Toronto played in the Grey Cup, and it was the Toronto Balmy Beach Beachers. That's a handle for you. In the 15th Grey Cup, beating the Hamilton Tigers 9-6 in a barn burner of a championship game at Varsity Stadium, attended by 13,676 fans. There have been 4 other times in which Hamilton and Toronto met in the Grey Cup. The first time was 1910, the second Grey Cup. University of Toronto Varsity Blues, the defending champs, win again. They go back to back. In fact, they went back to back to back. They beat the Hamilton Tigers 16-7 at the AAA grounds in Hamilton in front of 12,000 fans. That was 1910. They met again in 1912 when the Hamilton Alerts beat the Toronto Argonauts 14-7 at, 11-4 at the AAA grounds. And after the Hamilton Alerts win in 1912, the Hamilton Tigers take the title in 1913. They demolished the Toronto Parkdale Canoe Club at the AAA grounds by a score of 44-2 in front of only 2,100 fans at the AAA grounds. Must have been a bad weather day on November 29th, 1913. And the only other time that Hamilton and Toronto met in the Grey Cup was 1915. Grey Cup number 7, the Hamilton Tigers winning their second championship. They beat the Toronto Rowing Association 13-7 at Varsity Stadium. 2,808 fans, approximately, attended that game. So there you go. Last time that Hamilton and Toronto played in a Grey Cup. What a storyline this would be. 1927. All right, there are a variety of ways, as usual, to join me on the Fifth Quarter Show bonus edition here on YouTube. You can click the link in the chat, and we have Jeff and Colton standing by. We're going to get to them in a couple of seconds. We have the chat, which is already very active. Email fifthquartershow@gmail.com, and we had a number of amazing emails last night, and hopefully that continues throughout the day today. And you can also go on X. The handle is @RickZamperin. Use the hashtag Fifth Quarter. Let's get to the link, and we have Jeff in Edmonton. Jeff, good morning. My God, it's 6:07 in Edmonton today.
Yeah, it's bright and early. I've been at work since 5, so it's one of those mornings. But yeah, man, I fell asleep before the game was over last night because I had to be in here for 5.
So
it was a nice surprise to wake up to.
When did you tap out? What was the score?
Hold on a sec. I'm getting some feedback. I just heard an echo.
You know what? I'll mute you. I'll ask you the question, and then I'll mute myself. When what was the score when you tapped out, Jeff?
They were, I think it was 18. They had 18. So there wasn't much time left. I think there was a couple minutes left. So I think I just kind of dozed off thinking it was over. And well, yeah, I'm kind of regretting I missed that one. But
well, hey,
yeah,
that was
what a unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think crossover is definitely a possibility here.
Well, and so too is, at least tie. All they have to do is tie Toronto in points. So Hamilton wins, Toronto loses at least one game down the stretch, and Hamilton wins one more than Toronto. And Hamilton's in. They get third place in the East. They're just 1 point out of the crossover in the West. So either one is a big possibility.
Yeah. So what city would we come to if we got the crossover? Would it be Saskatchewan then? Would it look like?
So if the playoffs started, let's just say the playoffs started today, Hamilton gets the crossover, and none of the other, part of the standings have changed. So right now, the Ticats would be, once again, in BC to take on the BC Lions in the West semifinal. BC is in second place, so that's how it would stand right now. So whoever finishes in second, if Hamilton gets the crossover, they would be at that ballpark.
Ooh, yeah, I don't see. That's I don't know. I mean, hey, I know it's tough to win in BC. I mean, I guess an afternoon game would be a little bit better than these 10:30 starts, right? But
very true, very true. Do you have a player of the game from last night?
I'm gonna go with Bo, man. I'm gonna go with Bo again. I think he's, you know what? He had a great career before he came. Everybody knows Bo's one of the best quarterbacks ever played in the CFL. Okay, he carved out his name in Calgary. And now he's on the second leg of his career. He's writing in his next chapter in Hamilton. So the guy is great. He's a great quarterback, and he's writing his Hamilton chapter. That's what I think.
It's a great way to put it. Jeff, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us while you're at work, and have an awesome weekend.
You too, Rick. Thanks, man.
All right, that is Jeff joining us here on the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube. That is dedication right there. A Ticats fan who, fell asleep, and there's probably many of you out there who kind of nodded off because, hey, it's a long day on Friday. Kickoff is at 10:30. You get to 1:30, and that's the end of the ball game, and some people stayed up, and then they're done. And then here we are at 11 a.m. live here on the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube. Let's get to some of the chat commentary. And by the way, before we do that, player of the game voting from last night, Bo Levi Mitchell had 18 votes. Chris Jones, 4. Also a vote for Ante Milanovic-Litre, who came in for an injured Greg Bell. And hopefully we'll get a status update on Greg either later on today or sometime this weekend. And there was also a vote for Condre Smith as well. Again, you can click on the link in the chat as Jeff did, as Colton did. We're going to get to Colton in just a couple of seconds. Colton in the chat says, Oski, we keep on rolling. Kevin says, Ticats with 4 exclamation points. History Nerd 1814, who was also with us on the show last night, says, a follow-up to the question to when was the last win in OT by Hamilton in Week 18 on October 21st, 2016 against the Ottawa Redblacks, the year Ottawa won the first Grey Cup. The score was 39-36 for Hamilton. History Nerd 1814, you are 100% correct. 2016, the last time the Ticats won a game in OT. OOG 37 says, Oski wee wee. Mr. Ukrainian is back, and he was live and active in the chat last night. Good morning. What a win earlier this morning. Yep. Stubbs says, I went to bed at halftime. What a finish. Catherine says, good morning. What a game. Anthony says, let's go. And Kevin says that would be fun, probably in reference to any kind of playoff game involving the Ticats. History Nerd 1814 says, also, if I'm doing the math, if Ottawa wins today and loses the rest of the games and Hamilton wins all the games left, I think Hamilton could take second. So if Ottawa wins today, let's just do the math here. Ottawa wins today, they would have 19 points, and then so we'll cap them at 19. And if the Ticats won the rest of their games, that would be 3 more wins, 6 more points. That would also be 18 points. You are correct. No, actually, no. Ottawa would have 19 points. Ottawa would have 19 if they win today. So a Ticats win out from here on in, they would not get second place because Ottawa would have 1 more point than the Tiger Cats. But we need Ottawa to win today. That is for sure. All right, let's get to the chat again. And Colton is going to join us here. Colton, good morning. Welcome to the bonus edition of the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube. How are you?
Not bad. How about you?
I am okay. Your thoughts on the game last night?
Well, I dozed. I was up and then I fell asleep, and I was up and then I fell asleep. But from what I saw, it was a great game. I woke right back up as overtime was starting. So I'm glad I caught that.
Wow.
But, and I'm getting married today. So,
oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Thank you. So the win last night was a bit of a boost for sure. I'm not as nervous waking up this morning as I think I would have been if they had lost. But I think overall it was great. I think it started off rough and it was kind of like, oh geez, especially when you stay up for some of these late games. It's like, oh God, if they start playing really, really poorly. But they picked it up in the second half. And that the double reverse they did for the 2-point convert where Bo got the ball, that was that was awesome. He's showing a lot of versatility still, and he can move pretty well. Sometimes I forget, like when he scrambles, I'm like, oh. And it looks like it takes him a little bit for his knees to get going, but he seemed fine on that play. And then like Condre Smith was going up and making great plays also.
Yeah, it was really, someone mentioned it in the chat last night. It was really a tale of two halves. The Ticats were lousy in the first half, 16-0 at one point. They score on their first possession of the third quarter. And, all of a sudden it's a 1-touchdown game. BC comes back and scores on their next drive, 10 plays, 91 yards. They're up 23-8. And I think a lot of fans are thinking, all right, it's just going to be one of those, a valiant comeback is going to fall short. This is the inevitability. And it happened. I mean, it happened. It was unbelievable. And that 2-point convert played huge in the final score. Without that, they would not have, managed to take the lead late in the game and force BC to a field goal. So awesome stuff from the Ticats. Who's your player of the game from last night?
Bo Levi Mitchell for sure. He played awesome again. And it seems like every time he shows up, he's ready to work now. And those, his Boveralls are 4-0 now. So hopefully he's got a couple more pairs he can wear.
Yeah.
And on a side note for our reception entrance today, we got our Ticat jerseys, and we're going to come into Ticats are humming. So
Nice.
a lot of Ticat spirit over here today.
That is awesome. I was going to ask whether or not your wedding attire was going to be Boveralls, but the Ticats jerseys would be good.
Yeah,
What
for sure.
what did the future misses think of the late night last night?
Oh, she was in bed at home. I slept in the hotel last night, but she was happy this morning. There's no way. She's tried to stay up for those games before, and it just didn't work. So
Yeah.
she's not the best late night person, that's for sure.
Well, that's something she can work on in your marriage, but I'll give you some advice. There'll be lots of stuff that you need to work on for sure, Colton. Listen,
For sure.
congratulations. Have an awesome wedding. Have a great honeymoon as well. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a good one. That is Colton getting married today, and still took the time to call in on the fifth quarter show on YouTube. That is pretty doggone cool. That might be a first for a sports post-game show. Just going to share the link again to chat with me on the fifth quarter show here on YouTube. It is a celebratory morning here on the bonus edition of the fifth quarters. The Ticats pull out a big win last night, 32-29 in overtime. First overtime win for the Ticats since 2016. Kevin saying Jen here, not Kevin. Okay, so Kevin is Jen. All right, I got that. Says, I think the bonus question, according to Steven, the bonus question for the bonus edition could be, do you prefer Ticats secure an Eastern berth or a crossover berth? That is a great question. Let's ask it. What do people think of that? Do we want a crossover for Hamilton to become the first Eastern Division team to cross over to the West? Or do we want the Ticats to knock out Toronto and secure third place in the East? I don't know. I mean, you look at the path in the West, and it's not going to be easy. Whoever finishes second, whether it's BC or Saskatchewan, I think Edmonton, we can probably write them off given last night's score, and they may have just hit a wall after their red-hot streak. I think Winnipeg, I mean, they've won 7 in a row. I'm not sure they're going to be falling back into second place. So it's going to be either the Lions or Rough Riders on the road, obviously, for Hamilton. They'll be on the road regardless. Or in Ottawa, in all likelihood, for the East semifinal, should they secure third in the East. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I think, as a purist, I would want them to, clinch third place in the East, beat out Ottawa and Montreal and go to the Grey Cup. But it would be kind of fun for Hamilton being the first team to get the crossover spot. But we also know this, that no crossover team has ever even made it to the Grey Cup. And frankly, you look at Ottawa and Montreal, and while they are two really good teams, I would prefer Hamilton to play those teams. The rivalry, the excitement at their stadiums. That would be what I'd vote for. What would you vote for? Crossover spot for the Ticats, or do you want them to secure third place in the East? That is our official question here in the bonus edition of the fifth quarter show. Nona says, in the first quarter, 16-0. I thought, oh no, here we go again. Those Ticats did not let us fans down. Oski, wee, go Ticats. Keep it going, Ticats. And Kevin/Jen says, I tapped out when we had no points in the second quarter. Jen, a lot of people did, to be frank. But was a nice surprise to wake up to. Anthony says, O'Leary Orange, it's not how many, it's how clutch. Yeah, huge catch for O'Leary Orange in the late stages of that game. Laura says, bonus show. Love it, Rick. Thanks for doing this. Anthony says, grinding. And Laura adds, we are all Als fans today. Als and Red Blacks fans today, for sure. Absolutely. Did notice an email coming in. This one is from Joe, and Joe writes, again, the email is fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Joe says, hi, Rick, love your show. Mitchell was fantastic and player of the game. Wow, heart-pounding finish, but worth every second. As Ticats finally won in overtime. They proved me wrong. I now think that the Cats will win out, then cross over and play in the Grey Cup against Montreal. I sent this to you last night at 2:08, but it didn't go through because I made a mistake because I was tired. Joe, you and I both. I hope you can see it on your 8 o'clock show. I have to go to bed now. Eat 'em raw. Joe M. from Bright Ontario. Joe, if you are sleeping, this email came in at 4:24 a.m. Joe, if you're sleeping, email has been read. Catch it on the podcast or by watching this recorded live edition, if that makes sense. I'm on 4 hours sleep here too, but it is a lot of fun to talk to you on a Saturday morning after what was a crazy show last night. Lance on the email, fifthquartershow@gmail.com, the number 5, TH, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. The subject line is Butler situation. Lance writes, good morning, Rick. Butler, burning the candle at both ends is mighty fine when we are all treated to another fantastic, epic finish with a win. Wanted to mention, I wonder how Butler feels as he was a healthy scratch again, but this time in the home of his former team. Hard to critique Milanovic as we're 4 wins in a row, but I do really like Butler and think he's still a very effective player for us. Enjoy the weekend, Rick, and thanks again for hosting Lance in Stony Creek. Well, the Butler situation is going to be interesting, Lance, and everyone else who is watching, because for everyone who watched the game last night and saw Greg Bell go down with an injury in the second half, that was quite concerning. He was clutching the right side of his rib cage, and it looked like just an ordinary tackle. It wasn't a vicious hit. It wasn't an ugly play. It wasn't a dirty play. He just kind of got hit as he was going down and then was very slow to get up, wincing in pain. Who knows? I hate to speculate, but that looked like a crack rib situation to me. If anything, a bruised rib, and those hurt. Anyone who's had a bruised rib can attest that that's not a very pleasant injury. So, that affects your breathing. That's going to affect your sleep. It's going to be hard to get to sleep for Greg, and that certainly is going to impact him on the football field. So that's going to be a situation to keep an eye on throughout the weekend as Ticats get back on the practice field. And my guess would be at this point in time that James Butler is probably going to start the next game next Friday night, which is the Wall of Honor game. Ticats and Blue Bombers at Tim Hortons Field. And the night before, and you probably see it on the ticker, that the Ticats Alumni Association's Wall of Honor dinner goes the night before, Thursday, Michelangelo's, October the 3rd. Tickets are $125. I'm going to be there. We're going to cheer on 2 amazing additions to the Wall of Honor, Mike Walker, Bernie Custis. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you can make it out to Michelangelo's on Thursday, I'd love to see you there. Kevin/Jen says beating the Argos is always a better feeling. I agree. The fact of the matter is that Toronto and Hamilton are not, in all likelihood, not going to face each other in the playoffs. I mean, Ottawa would have to lose out. Toronto and Hamilton would have to win out. And I'm not sure that is going to happen. But yeah, preventing Toronto from getting to the playoffs, I think most Ticats fans would say, yeah, I'll sign up for that. Mr. Ukrainian says the 2 hottest teams in the league at this very moment will battle it out in the Donut Box Friday night, and I can't wait to be there and support our team. History Nerd 1814 says East would be easier, but I would love to see a Toronto-Hamilton Grey Cup. That would be something. Toronto-Hamilton Grey Cup in BC this November. I mean, the tickets would be flying off the shelves. There would be so many Ticats and Argos fans going to that, because when are you ever going to see that again? That is a once in a lifetime, once in an eternity game that would come about. I'm not sure that we would ever see that again. That would be crazy to see. Anthony says the Boniverse is asking you to believe. Okay, the puns are rolling this morning. Let's check out X. The handle is @RickZamperin. Steven says, even the legendary Ron Burgundy never imagined or delivered this level of commitment to his fans. Rick does the sports radio 2-a-day equivalent in epic style. Hey, listen, this kind of bonus edition thought was made in the previous game, not last night's game, but in the previous game, in which Hamilton beat Toronto. And a lot of people are thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stay up. Maybe we should have, maybe just do the 5th quarter on Saturday instead of right after the game. And, some fans are like, no, it's got to be right after the game. That's how it's always been done. We got to get the raw emotion out there. And we certainly saw that last night. And so it's happy to oblige and offer a bonus edition. Although in the future, after these late games, I think the bonus edition will probably start at noon. I think if I was smart, when there was some debate about that, I think noon is probably the more appropriate time. Rob says, I miss this. Sleep is overrated. You are right. And Mallory says, morning, Rick. I'm an early to bedder. I did my best and stayed up till halftime. Went to bed thinking it was going to end just as disastrously as it started. Woke up to a surprise. Looking forward to watching the second half later today. Need the Ticat shop to start selling Boveralls. They have to. We talked about this on the show last night. Boverall, get the Boveralls merch going right now. LD Sports says Ticats are red hot. Confidence is a great thing. Confidence is an absolute monster in this regard because this team 4 in a row going to Labor Day, they were 2-9, knowing that the season unofficially begins on Labor Day. But who would have thought that this team would win 4 in a row? 4 in a row. And now they have an opportunity to make it 5 with a titanic collision course with probably the hottest team in the league. That's won 7 in a row in Winnipeg. Let's see here. William says, top of the morning, Rick. I haven't tapped out yet, just like our Cats worked. Watch the game, watch the fifth quarter, and now watching you again. I'm believing. Thanks, Rick, for the show. Stubbs says, I'd prefer to beat the Argos for third place so the Argos missed the playoffs. Stubbs, I'm with you there. The more I think about this, as cool as it would be to have the Ticats be the first Eastern team to cross over to the West, I thought, yeah, let's boot the Argos out of the equation. Although the Hamilton-Toronto, maybe pipe dream of a Grey Cup would be awesome to see. Anthony with a message that treat accessibility today in Hamilton, Toronto, in Halifax. Yeah, you can check it out online. Just Google treat accessibility. It's an awesome program in which kids who are disabled get to celebrate Halloween in a very epic way. And that's going to happen in Hamilton and Toronto and Halifax and a bunch of other places as well. David says, good morning, Rick. Team, no sleep watching from work. Oski wee wee, what a win last night. Woo! Now need the Bills to follow up with a big win Sunday night. Well, if I don't want to spoil this post-game party, but if you watched Picks, Props, and Predictions on Thursday or are set to watch it on YouTube, I won't spoil everything, but I do not pick the Bills to win on Sunday night. Going to be an epic clash. Big win for Baltimore last night. I don't want to talk too much about NFL. Or big win for Baltimore last week. That's going to be an amazing game. Ravens and Bills, that's going to be an amazing game. Ari says, would like to see Milanovic secure a commitment from Chris Jones for next year. Absolutely. That's got to happen. If Chris Jones is not the defensive coordinator next year, one of two things will have happened, or maybe three. Number one, a disastrous defensive effort from here on in, although I think he has proven that he's unlocked something with this defense. Number two, Chris Jones gets a head coaching offer somewhere else, and that might be an opportunity for him. Although I don't really see a team out there, ho-heaving their head coach. Or number three, he gets something down south that just makes a little bit more sense to him. But as a fan, I'd love to see him stay in Hamilton, build something bigger with his defense. The question we're asking today, apart from your thoughts on the game and voting for your player of the game, by the way, Bo Levi Mitchell with a runaway on this one, is the question that Stephen proposed. Should the Ticats make the playoffs? Would you rather them finish third in the East and boot Toronto out of the equation, or become the first ever East Division team to cross over to the West and either play BC or Saskatchewan, most likely, in that crossover playoff spot and maybe get to the Grey Cup that way? Either way, it's going to be tough because you got to win 2 games on the road, hostile environments, playoff atmosphere. The weather's going to be crappy. Stranger things have happened. We're kind of seeing some strange things in this 2024 CFL season. Jen says, just get into the playoffs. Doesn't matter how you get there. D-Money, who was very active in the chat last night as well, is back on this bonus edition of the fifth quarter show on YouTube. D-Money says, this team going through early season struggles has made them battle-tested and has learned how not to throw games away. Hussey's Huddle says, I ran out of gas and didn't make it to the end, woke up and was shocked with the win. This team doesn't quit. And Anthony says, yeah, you picked the Ravens. LOL. A couple of ways you can interact with us through the chat, of course. You can click on the link in the chat if you want to call me on the Fifth Quarter Show here on YouTube. You can also email as well, fifthquartershow@gmail.com. Fifth Quarter Show, 5th quarter show @gmail.com. Your thoughts on the game. Vote for your player of the game. First OT win for the Tiger Cats since 2016. They beat Ottawa 39-36 back on October 21st, 2016, their last overtime victory. What a game it was for Bo Levi Mitchell. And here's a guy who, like the entire offense, was struggling in the first half. Was not connecting with the receivers. Run game was non-existent. BC gets out to a 16-0 lead. Bo throws an interception, which only translated into a field goal for BC, which I think, in hindsight, was huge that BC could not, turn that turnover into anything more than 3 points, given what happened after that. Bo Levi engineers an epic transformation in the second half, in which I think it was 16 or 17 in a row completions that he had made before a check down to James Tuck went incomplete. Tuck just couldn't catch the ball, and that really didn't stop Bo from continuing on. I think he completed 29 of his last 30 passes. Finishes the game 34 of 40, 315 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. Bell, before he got hurt, 7 carries, 40 yards, and 1 touchdown run. Ante Milanovic-Litre with the game-winning touchdown in overtime. He had 6 carries for 15 yards and that 1 big TD, and the leading receiver for the Tiger Cats. There was a lot of guys that stepped up, especially in the second half and even in overtime. Keandre Smith, 8 receptions, 92 yards, 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter, and it was a great play by Bo and Keandre Smith and the offensive line, who only gave up a trio of sacks last night, as did BC's offensive line as well. But Tim White, I thought, had a pretty solid game as well. Made some big catches, 7 receptions, 74 yards. Bell had 5 catches for 24. Bridges, 4 for 27. Tyler Turnowski, who came in for Shamar Bridges, who got hurt late in the game, had a couple of receptions for 33 yards. Brendan O'Leary Orange with a big catch in OT. 2 receptions, 25 yards, and, of course, the touchdown in the fourth quarter. And Stephen Dunbar, who was really quiet for most of the game, 2 catches, 24 yards, and what was a huge win for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They are now 6-9. I still can't believe I'm reading that statistic. 6-9 after being 2-9. Oh, wow, what a game it was. Vote for your player of the game. Your comments on this game in the chat are continuing, and we have FM Fan YT. I'll just say FM. It says Bo with another Bo 300 last night. How can he not be in the MOP discussions after last night? He has, and I mentioned this last night, not necessarily cemented his status as an MOP candidate, but really given it a boost. And when you look at the other candidates out there, and I think, Cody Fajardo's probably in the conversation. You probably got to put in Drew Brown from an East Division perspective. In the West, it's probably going to be Zach Caleros, who had 6 touchdowns last night, 0 interceptions, and now has 15 TDs on the season, 14 picks. That team's in first place, so Zach's probably already going to be automatically in the mix. From a BC standpoint, I think Vernon Adams Jr. and Nathan Rourke kind of cancel each other out. Justin McInnes might be their nominee for most outstanding player, to be honest, for BC. And, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Calgary, I don't see any of their players being in that final kind of conversation for most outstanding player. So, again, if I'm voting now, and I told this to Scott Radley, columnist with the Hamilton Spectator, that if I'm voting today, Bo's probably getting my vote. And based on what we saw last night, I think I'm much more okay with that as these kind of games and these wins and his performances continue on. Mr. Ukrainian in the chat says, agreed. He's on a wicked pace this season, throwing the ball very well. Let's go to the phone line, so to speak. Mark is joining us here on the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. What did you think of last night's game? Who's your player of the game?
Well, my player of the game is Bo for sure.
Okay.
Now, you know what is weird? Well, not weird, but I went to bed at halftime because the game did not look good.
Yeah.
And they weren't playing well. And then I got up this morning. I PVR'd the game. I'm glad I added 30 minutes because it went to overtime.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
So anyway, it was a great finish, and I made sure I did not know the outcome, so it made it for an exciting morning to watch the game.
Nice. As you're
Just like
watching,
watching it live.
yeah, last night's game this morning, not knowing the score, not knowing what happened, and this team is coming back. Were you starting to believe, or at what point were you starting to believe that, man, this team might win?
Well, I think by the fourth quarter, and
Yeah.
it seemed like what's his name, Nathan Rourke. He was running around a lot. The defense, was playing pretty good. They didn't finish the sacks, but I thought the defense played very well the second half, and it allowed for Bo. And I think that what do you call it? The time of possession was in Ticats' favor because
Mhm.
the second half anyway.
Yeah, Ticats time of possession 30-53. BC had it for 29:07, and that second half was entertaining. Lots of highlights, big clutch plays, and Ticats got the job done in overtime. So your player of the game is
It's got to be Bo.
Bo Levi. Okay, we're gonna mark you down as Bo. I'm going to ask you the question that we're kind of tossing around here on the fifth quarter show on YouTube is, would you, if the Ticats make the playoffs, and knock on wood, that still is a reality, would you rather they knock out Toronto and finish in third in the East, or become the first ever team to cross over into the West? What do you say?
You know what? I'm kind of mixed because I do want to shut up the West fans. They're always bad mouthing the East, can never cross over, blah blah blah.
That's right.
But I hate the Argos. So it would be nice for the Argos to miss the playoffs and the Ticats finish third.
I hear you. I'm
So
with
I
you on
think
that
I'll
one.
go with that one.
Yeah, let's have them stay in the East, finish third, and knock out Toronto. Mark, thanks for
Right.
calling in. Enjoy the weekend. Have a great one.
Thank you.
That is Mark here on the Fifth Quarter Show on YouTube. If you want to join as well, click the chat, or click the link in the chat. There's a couple of links that I've saved in there. If you don't see it, let me know, and I'll repost it in the chat. History nerd. Oh, the chat just bounced on me. History nerd 1814 says, I think even Chris Jones deserves Coach of the Year with the way he turned the defense around. Bo definitely deserves MOP. FM says coaching staff is always whipping up some special plays. That Philly special was something else. Yeah, anyone who missed the game last night, or that epic 2-point convert. So Ticats score a touchdown. They're going for two. Bo Levi laterals to Shamar Bridges. And then on an end around, Tim White coming the other way, Bridges laterals to White. And then White throws the football to a wide open Bo Levi into the end zone for two, and what was a massive 2 points given the final score at the end of, or at least the score at the end of regulation time. Mr. Ukrainian says, don't forget to remind your Argo cheering friend. Yes, we're all telling our Argo cheering friends. There are those out there for sure. Hussey's Huddle says, I think Oliveira might have a case to win it despite not having many TDs this year. Many people felt he got robbed last year, so he has that going in his favor as well. Brady Oliveira, fantastic performer. And a guy who is, clearly an MOP candidate for sure. The one knock against him, and he is starting to heat up, is he only has 3 touchdowns on the season, and his third came last night, and his previous 2 came in the previous game. So in the last 2 games, he's got all his touchdowns, which is only 3. But if he's gonna run like he did last night for the rest of the season, he will definitely be in the conversation, and probably negates Zach Caleros from being Winnipeg's nominee, I would think. Excuse me. Andrew H. says, big game last night, all in caps. Let's go. And Mr. Ukrainian says, friends, we gave them the good old sweep in 2024. Yes, we did. Argos could not beat the Tiger Cats in 2024. All happy about that. So the next game for the Ticats is Friday, and this is going to be a big clash because you have a team on a 4-game winning streak against the team on a 7-game winning streak. It is the Wall of Honor game. Winnipeg at 96, Hamilton 6-9, Friday, 7 o'clock kickoff. The odds have already been set. Winnipeg favored by 5.5. And okay. BC was favored by 6.5 last night. I still don't understand that line, but I guess because it was in BC, odds makers thought probably BC would win and win handily. That certainly did not happen. So that's going to be a great game. Wall of Honor dinner the night before on October the 3rd. Get your tickets if you haven't done so already. It's at Michelangelo's. Great meal, awesome appetizers, drinks, some really cool people are going to be there, including myself. I wouldn't consider myself in the cool category, but I will be there as well. Hope to see you there. You can get your tickets at htcaa.ca, htcaa.ca. Player of the game, voted by you, the fans, last night and again this morning on the bonus edition of the fifth quarter show on YouTube, Bo Levi Mitchell. What a performance he had last night. 34 of 40, 315 yards, 2 TDs, 1 pick, receives a big 2-point conversion, which went a long way for this team to win yet again. 4th in a row. I score 32-29. Ticats now on a 4-game winning streak. Let's wrap it up there. Big congratulations once again to Colton, who called the program earlier. Congrats on getting married today. Thanks for calling in on your wedding day, and hopefully the wife, the soon-to-be wife, does not mind at all. Listen, we are back next Friday night after the Ticats tangle with the Blue Bombers. Hope to see you then. No need for a bonus edition. It's going to be your regular Joe Schmo kind of fifth quarter. And I hope to see you then here on the fifth quarter show on YouTube. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.